Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Maduhu wasta'inuhu wastadihi wastaghfiruhu wa u'minu bihi jalla wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu arsalahu bil huda wa dinil haqq liyudhhiruhu ala din kullihi wallahu karihal mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. This way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd fa inna astakal hadith kitabullah wa awtaqa al-ura kalimatu taqwa wa khayrul milali milatu Ibrahim wa khayrul sunani sunatu Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ashraful hadith dhikrullah wa asnu al-kasasi هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزموها وشير الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الهدي هدي الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما الأمة دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفعها وخير الهادي ما أتبعها وَشَيْرُ أَمَّا الْكَلْمِ. The Prophet ﷺ said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah, or the Book of Allah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Qur'an. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. Best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allah yahmuru bil-adli wal-ihsani wa-ita'i dhal-qurba وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ يَعِظُكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin. He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ Sadrahu lil Islam. Those whom Allah in His plan will to guide, He opens their breast to Islam. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu attaqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutuna illa wa antum muslimun. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in a state of Islam. Wa atasimu bihablillahi جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكر نعمة الله عليكم, and hold fast all together by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تَمَرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. You are the best of peoples, evolved for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقد مكروا مكرهم وعند الله مكرهم وإن كان مكرهم لتزول منه الجبال. Mighty indeed were the plots which they made, but their plots were well within the sight of Allah, even though they were such as to shake the hills. This is, of course, as we say every week, one of our favorite and consistent ayats. Mighty indeed were the plots and schemes that they made, and their plots and schemes were so well organized and so comprehensive that if the hills had consciousness, it would shake the very hills and cause them to tremble. And in Arabic, it actually means that it would cause them to disappear. Therefore, Islam is under the threat of annihilation, although it's not working. But we're in a great war, and we remind people all the time that there are great plots against us. But those who are bred and fed on the Islamic movement have certain characteristics. Those characteristics hopefully are longevity. In other words, that some kind of way Allah has allowed them to last a certain period of time. And that longevity has given them a time to adjust, adopt, and maybe even confront, meet, and overcome and face challenges that are laid out against the system. That means if you can last a certain amount of time, and if you can develop certain counter-offensives against the offensive that the enemy is launching against you, this would truly be a revolutionary and evolutionary path. Before you leave, there's these MSA PSG San Francisco 2017. That was a lecture that we made here maybe 2 weeks ago, just before we went to San Francisco, for an annual program, MSA PSG, Muslim Student Association, Persian-speaking group. That means Iranians. All of us are familiar with this concept right here, design fitna. Design fitna. We've coined the phrase over a decade ago, but these series of lectures were 2/25, 2011. So they're 7, 8 years old. Just the discussion of design fitna. And I want to just briefly go over one of the flyers from 2013. Psychological guerrilla warfare has worked. Psychological guerrilla warfare has worked. That means that's about 5 years ago. That would mean when we really begin to taste the bite of the period in which we're in right now. and there's a program in Oakland. And then we talked about the College of Islamic Movement Studies, Department of Strategic and Islamic Studies, Office of the Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare. So, in this program, we were covering certain subjects that we have here for review. This one is titled Victory of Islam over the Shah, Victory of Masjid al-Islam over the Combined Forces of American Zionism. This is February 2014. Spider Steve Emerson, Sean Hannity, Daniel Pipes, NSA, FBI, CIA, Homeland Security, and a host of other clowns. Masjid al-Islam in East Oakland is the only independent masjid that stands for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against American Zionism. Imam Musa, this is number 1, will inshallah share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. Okay. The College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. Now, this is a program that we're having, and we have the tapes, CDs of the lectures. Learn how Masjid al-Islam has exposed the whole Zionist American network in the public sphere. Never has so few done so much for so many without visible support. A special session on design fitna, what it is and how it works. This will be the topic of the day. A special session on design fitna, what it is and how it works. Why pro-Zionist Negroes attacked Imam Musa? Why? A motivational session. Why not be courageous and stand for Allah and His Messenger, subhanahu wa ta'ala? An investigation into the enemy's perspective. If you can't attack the truth, attack the one bringing the truth. I'm going to go right to the message without building up. But on the 12th of last month, December, H.R. McMaster, the NSA advisor, held a meeting with Meir Ben Shabbat, that is his Israeli counterpart to the NSA. This was a closed-door meeting right here in, they discussed certain subjects. I want to get to the point, but I want to take just a minute to go over some headlines in the last few days. This is Wall Street Journal, Make Iran Great Again. This is on the 30th of December. Protests in Iran over economic woes spread, including the capital. This must be just a day or so ago. This president will not be silent on Iran. And that's a demonstration in Rome, but you can't see this Iranian flag as the old Iranian flag during the Shah's time. This lion with a sword. That means the people protesting there are Iranians, but they are Iranians predisposed to the Shah. They want to bring the Shah back, although he's dead. Iranians protest over economic malaise. This is yesterday, Thursday. Probably the news comes from the 3rd of Wednesday. Marching to put Iran on a new path. Now, these here are evidently Iranians, and this is in Paris, but if you knew what was happening, you would know that these are people that we refer to as munafiqeen. Munafiqeen is a group of Iranians that are dead set against Iran. They bomb, kill, and murder, and they had a rally right downtown in front of the White House a few days ago. They are the most hated group in Iran. They just got kicked out of Iraq several years ago from Camp Ashraf. They were also housed in Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War, and they fought along with Saddam Hussein against Iranians. Many of the bombings that went on in Iran a few years ago against scientists and other high-level engineers was done by these people who we call Munafiqeen Qawm. They call themselves Mujahideen Qawm. That means the party or organization, but we call them Munafiqs. Unrest in Iran underscores vulnerability of ruling clerics. This is mine. Yesterday, that Iran is on the verge of going away. The clerics are about ready to disappear. Demonstrations challenge Islamic Republic at its core. I imagine this was yesterday also. A foreign hand in protest. Iranians see proof in their history. In the rock bar there, this is from last year, a big demonstration. In fact, the anniversary of the revolution is coming up in a few days. I'm going to get to the point here in a minute. Thursday, that's yesterday, January 4th. Iran took another step on Wednesday to quell the recent demonstrations staging pro-government rallies throughout the country. Now, they chose to show this one in Qom, so you would see nothing but turban wearers. They didn't mention about the millions that demonstrated all over the country, and when you go back, see if you can find out how many people demonstrated today, because this is the main day they're going to come out. And as ISIS fades, a new focus on Iran. Remember I just told you that Ben Shabbat and McFadden, whatever his name is, met in D.C. on the 12th of last month. The U.S. says weapons debris point to Iran. Just the old rusty shells of some cannons. Now, when I was in Iran, I happened to bring back a couple of papers. Tehran Times, this is December 7th. Move on Quds, a sign of despair. On this day, thousands of people, the next day on Jum'ah, came out in support of the Islamic Republic. I don't need to put all these, but Hezbollah threatens new uprising targeting Israel. And you can see what the sign says in Arabic, Palestine. You heard in the news a few days ago that the people of Iran were tired of Iran supporting people all over the Muslim world, and they were tired and they wanted all the money to stay in Iran and all the money to help Iranians in their plight. Not to help in Syria, and not to help in Iraq, and of course definitely not to help in the fight against the Zionists. Stay out of Syria, forget about Palestine. But if you saw the papers there, the paper attitude of the people after Jum'ah 3 weeks ago, filed out of Salatul Jum'ah by the millions. Now, they said starting 3 days ago, there was some counter demonstrations, right, in support of the government. Now, we have something here called Design Fitna number 3. You can take with you when you leave a DVD over there of about a little over 2 weeks ago when we're going to San Francisco. And we're going to give a talk to the MSA PSG. I'm not going to go into all the particulars, but every time we show up anywhere recently and for the longest, there's a thick group of Iranians. If you remember when we went to the Palestinian demonstration, you remember it was a whole group of Iranians, and they were saying, we're not with those other guys, the other Iranians, that they are with me. That's basically what they were saying. A lot of stuff going on. Now, Design Fitna, as it says, psychological guerrilla warfare has worked. Now, this is 7 years ago. Design Fitna 2011. So whatever Design Fitna is, we've been dealing with it a long time. And now, there's been an argument between the revolutionary camps, and everybody was trying to convince Imam Musa that you are wrong. We don't want to hear about that stuff. This goes back several years. And we tell them, you can kiss our behind. We know what we're doing in America. Psychological guerrilla warfare. They're almost laughing at it. I say you laughing at it because you don't know what it is, you don't know how it works, and you don't try it. These are the various groups now. This is in every struggle, like you may be aware of, in the late 1920s and early 1930s, in China, there was a struggle between the Chinese Communist Party and the Russian Communist Party. The Russians are helping the Chinese. They're doing a good job. But the Russians are going off their history of 10 years, 12 years back of their 1917 revolution. And the Chinese are going off their acquired information and their historical process. Chairman Mao challenges their Russian supporters. In the first round, the Russian supporters win. And that means that they help the Chinese fight against the Kuomintang, you know, Chiang Kai-shek and all those people. Later on, the Japanese, when they invaded China, changed Manchuria to Manchukuo, stuff like that. Now we're into the 1930s, the Long March period. Chairman Mao showed them how they've been making big mistakes getting everybody killed. And he said, this is a guerrilla warfare, not a confrontational warfare with Chiang Kai-shek. Your revolution in Russia was an industrial revolution. The big cities of Moscow, the unions and all that is what helped produce the Russian Revolution in Russia in 1917. 15 years later, China is going through its revolutionary process. Chairman Mao says this is not an industrial revolution. We are having a peasant revolution. You see, China is full of peasants, not big industry, like Russia. Russia was almost European. China was agrarian. They had rich landlords. You've seen all the Chinese kung fu movies. If they was in the old days, there was always a rich landlord around there. He had a gang of guys, then the good guys had a good school, and they were always fighting against the evil landlord. Remember that? That's in all their movies. That's the way it was. Chairman Mao won eventually, and they had their revolution in 1949, and now they really on the roll. We have our own situation here. All the black people succumb to Eastern Arab immigrant mentality, right? Think about all the Masjid in our neighborhood. They all succumb to those people. They're good guys, but they don't know what they're doing here. We never did. All the psychological and mental problems and all the strategies that they develop, integration, voting, we said we ain't voting for nobody. We're not against somebody in our group. If they just want to run down there and vote like a fool, you go ahead though. We're not against you voting, but that's not our policy. And I'm definitely not voting. Never have. I don't have no card. I don't want nothing they got. This is me. So we developed a policy that fit our situation. So we have to have guerrilla warfare like any other society, a small group of people fighting a big army, right? Big mechanized army is going to get wiped out if they try to confront these big guys, right? So we're having guerrilla warfare, but we changed the whole platform to psychological guerrilla warfare. I want you to understand that we're following the ancient process of revolution and evolution. And we've studied everybody, been involved. And the main lesson that you learn from everybody else in history. But that last 20% has to be based on your historical and environmental circumstances. Remember Qur'an, remember Sunnah, remember history, and what else? Our own personal experience. Our personal experience means we've had experience with this before. So we're not it's going to be psychological guerrilla warfare. Since this is brand new, and the system is not up on what we're talking about, they figure this is clownery, this is coonery. You know what I mean? Which we want to make it almost sound coonery. I'll give you an example of, do y'all remember several years ago, they had that C-SPAN program down there on, it was the New Black Panther Party, all of us. It was a 4-hour program on C-SPAN. Does anybody remember that? Okay. They piped it live, 4 hours. Then they piped it again at 1:30 that night. And after that, if you wanted it, you couldn't get it unless you paid for it. No more publicity. You know why? The setup, the new Black Panther Party, and the way them Negroes talk. Us, you know what they thought we was gonna have? A clown show. They said we're gonna pipe them niggas directly on TV, and once they show they behind, the people gonna be laughing. It's not gonna make no sense, and they just gonna be showing they behind. But it didn't go like that. Remember, we came on historical right away. This, good God Almighty. It's not what we expected. The next day, Abe Foxman was all on the media talking about these racists, us down there, da, 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 da. You didn't hear nothing else from C-SPAN. Why? Because we knew our environment. I'm going to get to the point about what's going on right now. In fact, I'm going to just jump to it because I don't want to take too much time on it. We have used psychological guerrilla warfare successfully against the system. We have used design fitna perfectly. Design fitna is this: you're going to get fitna anyway. So you design the fitna that you want to have, right? To throw your enemy off, to get him playing on your battlefield. The battle space, you arrange the battlefield. You arrange the time of the battle. When the sun is in his eyes, right? Not in your eyes. You arrange everything on the battlefield so that everything that happens in the climate and the weather, right? He's going to be down at the bottom, like if it's raining real hard, he's going to be sloshing in the mud and immobile, right? Not you. If you're planning doing that, you're going to choose the field of battle, what we call a battle space. Now, there's this international war going on, and we're telling them all these programs, man, psychological guerrilla warfare, we whooping the white man's behind over there. We having a field day. I can't, sure, what do you mean? We explain it to them, and they don't know what it is. I said, just because you don't understand. It got very heated. Well, we're going to do that. I said, if I catch any of y'all over in America, it's not long ago, doing anything to this white man, I'm going to whoop y'all's behind. I'm telling you what I said overseas. I said, the white man is going down. We don't need you getting in the way of his decline, right? Example. If you blow up something in America, right, and they know you did it, that makes the Americans feel bad about what? About you. So you're going to unify the American people against your politics, against whatever you're doing, right? You're going to unify them. You're going to help them. If they're going down, you're going to put the brakes on their decline. And if they got sense, they might help them move up a few notches. So we told them, I mean, we've mentioned this in lectures here. But to the point of right now, we had to show them and almost make them try it themselves. Try what? Design fitna. You listen to the CD over there, and if you can get the copy of, I can show you all the notes in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago. All the big shots was there. Everybody's paying attention. Everywhere we go, they got the Iranian press and everybody there. they're not there to put me on the Iranian press. They're there to copy and to film and to study everything, because they found out something that the white man been knowing a long time. These Negroes are accurate. Accurate. And it's not that white man, all the intelligence agencies, because intelligence agencies monitor each other, right? And if you monitor yourself, you're going to say, there ain't nothing really going on. But I'm going to show you that if you've been paying attention, something big has been going on all along. And now I'm going to show you the biggest right now. And I'm going to have to skip a little. Design fitna. I showed you all these things about Iran, right? So instead of just going all through it. So we had to set the Iranians up. The trip to Iran 3 weeks ago, the speeches out there, all of the press coming by and listening. And we know they listen because we see what they do. So here's what we had to do. Design fitna means we had to engineer the Iranians into doing a project themselves. And once they roll it and get a taste of it, which they did, you said, what is that nigga talking about? Well, all of this stuff that you see in the paper that I showed you about Iran, right? They told you, well, this thing first started up in Mashhad. Mashhad is a holy city. Mashhad is the only city where there's one of the Imams buried. The eighth Imam, Imam brother, is buried in Mashhad. Mashhad is Sirius's tomb. I'm going to just go to the point. So what did we have to do? Do you notice how this last week or so Iranian news went? The first day, they jumped on it. Isn't that right? Every paper, Iran is falling apart. Iran, da 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 da. Then, forget about who initiated it first. They say it was some home folks in Mashhad started. Just talking about against Rouhani. Then they pulled back. Then Munafiqeen and other people started rising up around the country. Not in big numbers, but they started rising. When they started rising up, the U.S. jumped right on their team. If they have any economic problems in Iran, they are caused by the U.S. embargo for the last I don't know how long. And everybody in Iran knows that. But now design fitna is supposed to do certain things. Number one is supposed to expose all of your enemies and how and who they work together. They drug out the same old dumb media. Iran is going to fall in 2 weeks. You remember you see anybody on TV? The Iranian experts, Trita Parsi, all of them guys. Karim Sajapur, I didn't see him this time, but he's running. This is different than the rebellion of 2009, and they're giving all of these stuff. Da, 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 da. And guess what? After a while, they let them move on and they let everybody come out. Who's against it, who's for it, and they let everything just pick up to a crescendo. Then, all of a sudden, what do? They had a couple of demonstrations 2 days ago, another demonstration yesterday, pro-government demonstration. And today, now the demonstrations go like this. I saw some of the pictures. I know what those streets, from where they take that picture, and looking way back, you know that the others 2-3 streets is like that, that's 1 million people. You know, because you've been there before, you're aware of the demonstration. You don't hear much about Iran falling apart today and yesterday, did you? You know why? Because Iran set them up. This was their first project, and it's good. Who had them do it? That Negro? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. How does it work? Design fitna. You're going to get fitna. You got the Israeli guys and the U.S. meeting. You got Iran has got to go, right? And they come out with slogans that do not equal reality in Iran. The Rahbar is popular, very popular. The Quds forces is super popular. But here comes the guy saying, death to the dictator. Who is that? That's Munafiqeen. Who's supporting them with money and technology? And when Iran closed down one site, who circumvents them around another way? All the west, the west, the west. So now, from that setup, you get everybody on that team. You get all the players, and you get them focusing on what you want, something that is not possible. The Islamic Republic is weak, impossible. The Islamic Republic is on a super roll. Everything in the Middle East is winning way. We don't want them in Syria. Of course they don't want, because they was, Iranian people know that when they attacked Libya, next they wanted to attack Iran, but they couldn't. So they attacked Syria, its ally. That if they finish off Syria, would you turn the heat off? If they attack Syria and get rid of it, then next Iran got to go. Why? Because for a decade or for a long time, they've been trying to reshape the Middle East in their own image, with Saudi Arabia as the hegemon. Well, Saudi Arabia has a policy of insanity. Nothing has worked. They've been bombing and strafing and murdering people in Yemen so much that cholera and what's the other disease they got all coming back. 2 weeks ago, Abdul-Saleh, who was a past president, who was the Houthis' ally, got accidentally killed or something. That's a win for our team. America, Saudi Arabia, has lost on every point. Syria is now stabilized. So now, look at the strategic alliance. You got to think about it. You got Iran, Iraq, Syria. Now, guess who's working with it? Turkey is involved because of the Kurdish issue. And Turkey has been saying, hey, you guys got a, this is what it says today, is a series of plots against us. This is what Turkey is saying against America. The dumb Americans just say we're cutting off money to Pakistan. And Pakistan had almost destroyed its country going along with the U.S. program for the last 30-something years, since the invasion of Afghanistan in 1980 by the Russians. And then they say, we're going to cut off, they said we're cutting off. So now, everybody is against who? The U.S. And then the fool says, we're not going to support, we're going to change the embassy from wherever it is, Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. All the Muslims. Let me tell you something, dear believers. If you wanted to see a global transition right in front of your face, you look at the last few years. In Iran, the big white man said that part of the strategic studies that they have, he said, Saudi Arabia is good with going around breaking things, and Iran comes around and pick up the pieces. Don't hardly cost it nothing. Now, something we did, we got to teach them. You said, now, this nigga is arrogant. Well, it ain't new. I've been saying it all along, right? Whatever I'm saying now, there ain't nothing new about it. It's decades old. So we had to teach them how design fitna works. And it did. They started that phony uprising. So they started it themselves. But they have to start it with issues that ain't going to get out of hand, that they're not going, the issue out of Palestine. That's not an issue in Iran. They brought that themselves. Economy in Iran is better than anywhere else in the area. And is there corruption? Yes. If it's 80% corruption in the Middle East, it's 15% corruption in Iran. I tell them all the time, y'all got good corruption. You want some corruption, go to Africa, where we from. And it's an old saying. And just one little joke. It was this African and this Asian guy, let's call him Chinese. They went to the university together. So, this is what they say over there. So, they went back home, and then the African guy was visiting his homeboy in China. He said, man, you rolling big. Man, you got, how did you do this? So up on the big floor, he opens a big curtain. He says, see all of that? This is development, cranes. He said, I get 10% of that. I get 10% of all that development. So later on, the Chinaman came to visit his homeboy in Africa. Oh, his homeboy was laid out. He said, brother, you're doing so good. How did you do this good, this quick? He opened the curtain, and he said, see all of that? He said, I don't see nothing. He said, that's right. I get 100% of all of that. In other words, the Chinaman know the rule. You're going to steal, you just get 10%, 5%, you'll be billionaire. But the African, we used to have jokes in Africa about, in those days, the leaders used to drive a big Grand 600 Mercedes. And there was a joke about, the white man leave you some crumbs because they want us to fight over some crumbs. But them African leaders, if they driving by in one of the big Grand 600 and they see a little kid eating a little rotten mango, they'll stop and snatch it out of his hand and throw it in the bag and drive on. Why? Because the guy, if he gets a little healthy, is a threat. Everything is a threat. If you are alive, you are a threat. In other words, they're so stingy. This is, any African will tell you, tell the truth. Isn't that about the truth? Hey, I'm not anti-black. I'm pro our people. But, hey man, the Negro and the African need help. After colonialism, you know who's finally trying to get themselves together? Colonialism was way back when. The African is the last one. Chinese is almost ruling the world, right? Indonesia, Malaysia, the tiny tigers, they were all under colonialism too. They've been rolling since the 80s and the 70s. Finally, our dear brothers, I didn't mean to go off on our people, but we have learned our environment. And just like we are not going to sit back in the back seat and let nobody mess up our environment. America is going down. But as it goes down, guess who hurts? Our people here, right? The rich people are going to hurt last. So we actually, it's in human interest to help America. When I say America, not the government, but the people, right? That's why we talk about being a healing agent in America. Not an agent for sickness, but now we've learned something. Design fitna. We had to teach our brothers over there that you could pull this off. Now let's see if they did. A little over a week ago, they started this fitna, right? Then they pulled back. The U.S. and all of its allies, except the Europeans, they said, hey man, we don't like this stuff going on, all right? Except one or two. The Zionists, the Israelis, imagine Donald Trump tweeting Iranians. He didn't cut them off of you can't come in the country. He didn't sanction them and everything. And he's going to send them a tweet, I love you people. And the Iranians say, hey man, even the ones that's causing fitna saying, don't send us no more tweets about you going to help us and how you love us. In fact, the ones that's causing fitna, real fitna, they say, we don't want your help, homeboy. We don't want you to blow our whole little rebellion here, talking about, I love you and I'm going to help you. So they brought everybody out to show who they were. Now here's the main part, is that our people learned from that experience. Now, remember how we start off. We start off as victims of the system. Malcolm King, all those people were victims of the system. They didn't have time to, the system could do anything they wanted to them. And the system can do anything. They arrest me last month and take me to jail, do whatever they want. They can do that, but they can't make what happened they want to happen. We're going to use that for our benefit. So design fitna is when you engineer your own fitna. You got to look how important this is. You're going to get fitna anyway. So you engineer the big monster, right? And look at the newspaper. Look at Iran. They started the little fitna in Tabriz, backed up, quieted down. Then they let the opportunists, remember, all the opportunists, communists and everybody are going to come out and they say, this is it. So they come out and they switch the slogans. You could tell who's behind what part of it by the slogans. They're trying to make the government look bad. What do the government do? Y'all saw Ronnie on TV. He said, Everybody have a right to demonstrate. You could do this. Just keep it legal. But the fitna people come out with weapons. So by the third or fourth day, the government says there are mixtures of people with you. There are people who are with you, who are mixed in here, who are rioters, rebellious, troublemakers. So the government says, you guys who are protesting wages, who are protesting the doing away with subsidies, the increase in double the price of petrol and all that, you guys are right. We got to work on that. You got a right to demonstrate about that. But we want y'all to pull back. Because, and they did, because the bums are mixed in with y'all. So the good people stepped back and they left the bums out there burning down police stations, and they said there's 20 people killed. Well, in one city where there's people killed, not one police weapon was fired. So that means the rioters are doing the killing. And the president comes out and says, no, they try to provoke you, like the Negroes in California would come in the program talking crazy. One Negro stole, after Jum'ah, stole a zakat box and run off. And you can see him going out the door. That's to make you mad. That's to provoke you. After a few days, they're going to now provoke the government to crack down on everybody so hard that they get sympathy. They didn't do that. They said, you guys that are saying this, that, and the other, you're right. Y'all see that on TV? You've got a right to do that. Then, on the 5th and 6th, and today, if they had a couple of thousand people out countrywide, they had millions on Wednesday. The same thing yesterday and today. Jum'ah was over a couple of hours ago, and millions of people. But if you notice, in the last 2 days, about 3 days, you didn't hear nothing but it rain. It's gonna fall, right? Y'all remember that? Everybody talking about it over and over again. But when the government come out, this is part of design fitna. You design the fitna, and then after it gets to a certain point, you solve the problem that you've created. You're a hero. You're a hero to the public, and you're a hero to yourself. Here's the most important thing. This is their first try. Now, they are not psychologically browbeaten by the United States and by the West. You know why? Because that was our trial to design fitna. We can pop fitna up from anywhere. We got to tell them to overdo it now. You know how the guys, you know, if you kind of do a little stealing out of the cash register, and you steal $100. Nobody knows it. So now, you steal 200. Nobody knows it. You embezzle from the company. You started off with 100, now you said, oh, nobody knows 5,000. Shoot, take me 10 grand. If the company is big enough, nobody knows it. Pretty soon, you get greedy. Remember the Negroes in D.C. about 10 years ago that was stealing all the property tax money? Remember that lady? Boy, that lady was so rich. and she got a job down there. So she was smart but stupid, isn't that right? She couldn't be satisfied with a couple of million, just steal a couple of million and call it a day. The accounting system is too bad to even find that anybody stole 4 or 5 million. She couldn't stand that. She gonna steal everything. There ain't no tax money left. Right? So that's what we telling the brothers right now. Don't do that. You just had a victory. Okay, now you in the driver's seat. When they mess with you, you can design a fitna to throw them off on any level that you want. In other words, it's now a counteroffensive. We're going to do this to Iran. We're going to do that to Iran. Okay, you may let them do that. But you may sprinkle some stuff along the way so they'll follow that trail. And that trail leads right off of a cliff. You see what I mean? That's what design fitna is. We developed it here and it works wonderful. And we do it on this white man all the time. And he can't nothing he can do about it. Because he don't know when we're telling the truth and when we're lying. He don't know whether that nigga is just joking and selling wolf tickets or whether it's true. He don't know it's true till it's too late. Then I said, well, boss man. And I have sometime, see, you don't know, because you ain't never tried to whoop the cracker. He's so stupid that sometimes I said, boss man, I just, you see, you watch your wearing, that's your watch, that's your Rolex. Look at this hat, that's a 5-star beaver, that's your hat. You have to tell him sometime. You can clown him, you can coon, you got so many things in your briefcase to use against him. Nobody's ever used it because they're afraid of it. Now, Iran don't have to do as much physical warfare because now they're in the psychological realm. So if they sense the system getting ready to spring something physical on them, they can hit them with something psychological and throw them off. And they can expose them. And what's so good about it is the system don't know whether it's real or fake. They don't know whether they're trying to figure us out. You know, 3 cards, but it's on one of them. Right? Long as you get him, you won. As long as you got him watching, you got him. Isn't that right? Psychological warfare. As long as they pay attention to us, they can't win. Because we're going to colorize them. Tell the truth. Have you ever heard, I'm going to close, have you ever seen a national government as big as the United States government is and so discombobulated? Have you ever even heard of an American administration in history that is so disorganized as the American administration now? Do you know the whole world is laughing at America? And the fools go right and run. If the last 2 friends it have, they tell Pakistan been with these guys since the Soviet Union, man. Pakistan got aid from America during Ayub Khan's time. I don't know if y'all remember Ayub Khan. Probably don't. It was 1958. That's how long Pakistan and America have been cooperating. During Ayub, the dictator Khan's day. And now, the U.S. is saying, we ain't gonna help you no more, because you don't help us. The Pakistanis said, done got rid of the terrorists that be blowing up in Pakistan, and now when we get a little extra time, we'll help you over there. That's your problem. You did that. You invaded Afghanistan. We didn't invade Afghanistan. How you gonna blame the butt kicking they give you on us? That's what they're doing, right? They say, you haven't done enough. They tell everybody, you haven't done enough to help us. And they tell Turkey, you guys are messing up. And Turkey said, man, y'all just hooked the guy up in court the other day. Turkey said, you got triple plots. What all everybody do? The Iran and Pakistan's defense ministry met yesterday. Turkey and Iran have been meeting every day, right? Everybody loves Palestine, right? Nobody loves the Zionists, and everybody thinks Donald Trump is a clown. And his own homeboys come out with a book today. They was going to bring it out last week. Now they said, hey man, so they try to get a lawsuit again. What do they say? Donald Trump's a fool. That's his homeboy said it. Donald Trump is a clown. Donald Trump didn't even expect to win, and he didn't know what to do when he got. Well, that's evident, isn't that right? Now, Mr. President, now here's a guy that liked to watch TV and eat hamburgers, right? That's what they said. McDonald's hamburgers, because they don't trust nobody. He said McDonald's hamburgers is pre-wrapped, so here's them big limousines pull up to McDonald's, right? And he said, give me some of them pre-wrapped burgers. Then he go home, and he get on the phone. He called a few of his homeboys, and he's eating Big Macs watching TV. This is what the big white folks say he do. That's what he do. And you can't change his sheets. The house key, I don't want you changing my sheets. I don't trust y'all. I'm not going to eat that. I don't know what that is. It looked like oatmeal to me, but I don't trust it, right? This is the man in the White House. Can you become a bigger fool than he is? You can't imagine. And I'll close with this. I can't imagine, you can't imagine. We used to think George Bush is the dumbest man in world history. Nobody could top George Bush, right? That's what we thought then. Call him George the Unifier. Donald Trump made George Bush look like a ultra statesman, an intellectual. Donnie, tell the truth. Don. Now we thank God for Don. You know, we don't ever say get rid of Don. People go, we got to get rid of him out of class and leave him alone. Why? Because he will tear America to shreds. Right? When he finished, let's just have a quick breeze. As soon as he elected president, they have a big European meeting. What did Don do? Y'all remember? They taken a picture, he's in the back, he pushed everybody out. Do y'all remember that? He pushed everybody out of the way and stood there like, take my picture. Do y'all remember that? This is insanity. This is insanity. And he did it. He did it. He did it. All the other big white folks standing there. And he actually, like crowded line, pushed them out of the way, and he stood there and I'll take the picture. Big Don is here. And so all the allies in NATO saying, we depending on you to look out. I ain't looking out for y'all. Y'all ain't paying up no money, man. I ain't into nothing y'all about. I ain't about it. So you got to look out for yourself. And all the big white folks are saying, man, what's wrong with homeboy? So what do they say? You can't trust him. You can't trust the history. You can't trust nothing about Big Don, right? That's what they say. And don't talk about foreign affairs. They friends. He's talking to the president of Australia. Look, man, I ain't doing nothing that y'all talking about. You owe me $500, so don't call here no more. Slam the phone down. That's other white folks. He's talking to niggas, he's talking to the other white folks that he needs to get anything done, right? I'll close with this. The problems that America has now, we couldn't have produced those problems. We don't have the power, we don't have the structure, we don't have the organization. So thank God that some kind of way they elected old Don. And we happy they elected him because we don't have the power and the organization and the money to pull this all apart. And the last thing, they turned on everybody. Now, can you imagine how many white folks is dying every day of opium? It's 63,000. Over 300 a day. White folks dying of opium. Who hooked them? The big white companies hooked them. Why they hook them? Because they don't have no use for them. Like when they don't have no use for niggas, like when they don't have no use for farmers and Iowa and all that. Remember Farm Aid, 1980s? All the white folks losing their farms. What happened? Crystal meth and everything wipes the white folks out. Heroin, I mean, we had it bad, but it was never a time when 300 Negroes died per day or even per week in America of heroin overdoses. And now, they said that's the average, 300 and something a day, because they gave the number so many thousand. And this last year just went by, 2017. That's why we need to improve our Islam, improve our character, and you wanted to help America be good, this is how we help. By introducing them or introducing the behavior patterns of Islam. You don't have to call it this or call it that. They just, if we live in a certain life, they're going to ask you, man, what's that? So, well, this is Islam. We just pray, we stay focused on the Creator. That way we can treat the creation correct. Right? Well, we want clean air, clean water, because we're the Khalifa. Khalifa? I thought that was a ruler. No, Khalifa has another meaning of Khalifa too. A Khalifa is a steward. A Khalifa is a manager of the, you know how they say in the Bible, God gave man dominion over fowl of the air, fish of the sea, and everything creeping across. Dominion, not stewardship. The new Christians are saying stewardship. That means that we're managers, we help the earth. But in the old vision in the Bible, God gave man dominion to dominate nature, not to cooperate with nature. That's a big difference, right? Dominate, rape, plunder nature. This is the school we in. We in the care for nature, the care for the environment. Dear believers, keep watching your TV and keep watching us. It's going to be a little hard to take at first that Negroes got more sense than all the white folks put together. That's hard to swallow. That ain't easy. That ain't easy. You might as well get used to it. Because if you survive, it's a natural rule. If If you survive decade after decade, you gotta get smarter, sharper. The bigger the enemy, the more your faith increase because you know you can't do it, right? So you have to depend on some ultra, super, extraordinary power, which is God, which is Allah, right? Because you can't whoop the white man by yourself, right? So you make your plans and schemes, but you depend on Allah. So everything gets better. You physically get sharper, smarter, better, and your faith grows also. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. We seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is besides it. Ameen.